Chapter 3, The Volcano Informant. Planted in the hearts of men forever, Professor Gafer said, turning to his pupil. Professor, how do we know it will be forever? Prince Owen said cynically. The circular room was full of windows letting in the dry summer breeze. Maps and books were strewn across the tables and plastered on walls. 2 people occupied the room, an elderly gentleman with gray mustache and nobleman's robe, and a young man in a princely tunic. It will be forever because it is unforgettable, quite obviously. Enough of your questions now. Next you will recite the known towns of Aquino. 16-year-old Owen inwardly sighed and glanced out the window for a second, leaning on his elbow. At least we know hardly anything about Aquino, so I don't have much to recite, he thought. Ojingwang, Huao, and Karjuangping. His professor frowned. If you ever want to be a good king, you must know how to pronounce our neighboring kingdom's names correctly. Huao is pronounced Owa. Owa, Owen copied, and then, looking up suddenly, said, Gafer, why is the kingdom of Aquino so unfriendly and secluded? Oh, it's a very good question, Owen. Gafer began pacing the room, hands behind his back. Aquino has turned all ambassadors away from their gates and refuses any sort of communication. He rocked up onto his toes at the end of each sentence. One of the things that makes them so unfriendly is the iron wall encasing their entire country. We do not, of course, know how large the country actually is, he added, nodding his head emphatically. Another reason is that they speak a different language than all of us in the islands do. Now, this wouldn't be so much of a problem if we could become friends and we could learn their language. Thirdly, wait, I didn't have a first and second, he said, and then continued with a wave of the hand. Thirdly, it is believed they have many secrets to keep that they do not want other people to learn. But Gafer, why do they have a wall? And why are they so unfriendly? You have only explained that they are unfriendly. Ah, forget it. It doesn't matter why. Just then, several boisterous laughs were heard at the door. Both turned to see several young boys looking in through the open door. One was imitating the professor. Owen couldn't help the smile that tugged at the corners of his mouth, but Gafer yelled, Get out of here, you naughty boys! The prince is trying to think! The red-headed boy that had been imitating the professor stuck out his tongue. Oh yeah? Well, I'm the prince too! Then he hurried away. The professor kept teaching, but Owen's mind was elsewhere. Why did I have to be the firstborn son, he thought. Why do I have to learn all this stuff that doesn't even matter? I never want to be king anyway. Never. Just then, voices and footsteps were heard down the hall, and soon 5 men stepped into the room, all talking to the man in the middle. What care should I prepare, your majesty? I advise against it. Sir, can I speak to you? Please leave me, gentlemen. I must talk to my son. Each turned to go, waiting outside the room. Greetings, King Edward. The lessons are going quite fine, if that's what you've come to see, Gafer said. No, it's not that at all. Edward turned to Owen. In 2 weeks, we are going to take a trip up to the mountains by Juanzori Falls for a diplomatic peace meeting. We are taking the whole family, but I want you to pay special attention to the proceedings. You're going to be king someday, and you need to know how things work. Great. I gotta know how kings make peace. Why not solve the problem with a sword fight, Owen thought. Got it, he said, and then, wait, please tell me that means no more tutoring for a while? Well, yes, it does. All right, I'll pay special attention, Father, Owen said with a big grin. Edward sighed and shook his head. Okay, now get back to school. You've got to learn if you ever want to be a man. Owen's smile faded. How does this make me a man, he thought. This doesn't prove my mettle or my honor. This is just knowing random stuff. Once we're out in the mountains, I can prove I'm a man. Sure, Father. The next 2 weeks went by quickly. Servants of 4 different households packed for a week at Juanzori Falls. In Coronel, Edward had a huge silk tent made for temporary housing. Wagons were loaded with food, furniture, and clothing. In Boulogne, Juliana carefully instructed the cook what to bring, while Curtis gave thorough orders to the stand-in regent. Derek watched the preparations from afar, showing very little emotion about the whole ordeal. The children jubilantly looked forward to the cooler climate and the time outdoors. In Arthuraria, Seraphina nervously helped her mother make arrangements, her apprehension rising. How would this turn out? Was peace actually possible? She had heard stories of how bad it used to be and was thankful that there was an open hostility between the 2 countries now. But would they actually become allies? Seraphina carried Lottie out of the front door of the castle. Timothy, come on, we don't have any time to lose, she called. The 6-year-old came running out the door and shut it behind him. He grabbed Seraphina's hand. I didn't lose the time, it ran away, he laughed. Seraphina led them to the carriage that waited. 2 were parked in the courtyard, the horses pawing at the ground. Carts and wagons of cargo were sent ahead of them so that they might get there early. A company of knights were tightening cinches and mounting horses, some ready to follow them and others to lead the way. Laura, Margaret's personal servant, opened the door for Seraphina. 3 of the children were already in there, including Jerizan, Catherine, and Henry, attended by an elderly servant lady. Seraphina helped Timothy in. I'll go make sure the other children are out here, Seraphina said, giving Lottie to Laura. Thank you, but Lady Margaret already has them in the other carriage, Laura said, nodding towards the other carriage. Oh, okay. Are we ready to go then? Seraphina asked. Lord Arthur is still in castle, making last-minute decisions. Here you go, Laura said, handing Lottie, who was trying to get down, to Seraphina. She got in the carriage and sat down, trying to keep Lottie on her lap. Sarah, are we going to go yet, or why are we still sitting here? Catherine said. You can get out your embroidery while you wait. It's going to be a long drive to Baron Estelot's castle. I wish it wasn't so far to Zwanziria, or we could get there today, Jerizan said. Arthur came out of the castle and walked to the front carriage. The caravan was off with a jolt, and Seraphina took a deep breath, not knowing what lay in the journey ahead. A stream of smoke drifted from the top of the luscious volcano, the smoke rising above the busy city of Zakata. A squad of soldiers rode their horses proudly down the cobblestone street. Children scurried into the alleyways, while old women howled out of the way. They arrived at an old house, all shuttered up. The captain dismounted. Harrods, he said, pounding on the oak door. No sound issued from the house. The captain looked around the house and came back to the door. Open up in the name of the Queen! The door creaked open, and a small man with white hair poked his head out. What do you be wanting? The Queen has ordered your presence at the palace immediately. Now, why would that be? I've just been... Dare you question a soldier of the Queen? No, sir. I'll be coming right away. Harrods came out and was helped onto one of the horses. As the squad thundered out of sight, little children peeked out from windows, and doors creaked open, people staring at the disappearing soldiers. Isabel tapped impatiently on her golden throne and scowled at the servant pouring her wine. Her ladies-in-waiting stood around. What is taking them so long? She growled. I don't wish for more wine. Go away. Sure, Queen Isabel, the servant said with a slight smile. Do you mock me? Isabel said in a rage, sitting up straight. No, Your Majesty. I would never dream of it. Would you allow me to leave, Your Excellency? Isabel glared. Get out of my sight, dirty peasant. The ladies tittered. That silly boy will learn to respect you, no doubt, a young woman said burstingly. As the servant was leaving, the large doors opened, and a squad of soldiers marched in behind a thin old man with white hair and a wrinkled face. The man bowed low before approaching the Queen. You be sending for me, Your Majesty? What can your lowly servant be doing for you? He said in a trembling voice. Ladies, take your leave. They all slowly left the room. Soldiers, leave. Make sure no one enters the door to this room. If any of you dare to listen to the conversation, you shall be hanged. The 4 nodded simultaneously and marched out the door. Dear Harrods, Isabel said with a sweet smile coming upon her face, how is your research on the volcano coming? Harrison's expression briefly held shock, and then in a humble tone said, I'd be honored you'd be calling me to the castle just to chat. Fact is, just tell me what your current assessment of the volcano is, Isabel said, glaring. Okay, Your Majesty, okay. I won't be keeping you waiting no longer, no ma'am, he said. Then his voice dropped to a low tone. I've been a mite concerned lately about the volcano, and truth be told, I was about ready to go to the marketplace tomorrow and announce my fears. And what fears do you have, Harrods? She said. I fear that the volcano is going to blow pretty soon. Isabel leaned on her hand, taking a breath. I know it. Now what? She said under her breath. Then to Harrods, which way do you think it will blow? A bulge be forming on this side of the volcano. It would be directly blowing this city off the map. Isabel let out a frustrated groan. I'll tear that volcano apart to cover my precious gold mines and destroy my accumulated wealth. How dare it get in my way? It don't care much about what you do, your majesty. It just be wanting to let off some steam. Be quiet, imbecile! Don't you see it's going to ruin me? And kill a lot of people if I don't be telling them to evacuate. You won't be telling a soul. Why not? They'll all die if... Do you dare question me? You will not be telling anybody. There was silence as Harris looked down at the floor. He slowly looked back up at the Queen. Well, ma'am, I simply can't be going along with that. The lives of the people is dependent upon me, and it's too much a weight to bear that I, your humble servant, would be killing them all by not telling them. I simply can't be doing that. Isabel slowly stood, her face contorting into an evil glower. I think you want to change your mind, peasant. No, ma'am, I'm sorry, but... Guards! Isabel shrieked. The four came rushing in. Drag this dangerous lunatic to the dungeon! They grabbed him. Please stop, gentlemen. I must be warning you in the city. He's crazy. Don't listen to a word he says. Queen Isabel, Harrods gasped as they opened the door to drag him out. Their blood is being on your hands. Just think of your treasonous choice as a certain death comes crashing down on you, peasant. You be the traitor! He shouted feebly as they dragged him out of the room. Isabel stood seething with anger. After calming down a bit, she sat back down and took a sip of wine. Servant, get in here. The servant boy came running in. What can I do for you, your majesty? Call in my ladies in waiting. He did so, and they came back in, laughing and chatting. They ceased when they saw Isabel's serious demeanor. Helen, order the chamber servants to start packing my clothes. Agnes, send a servant out to the harbor to order the royal Climpada to stay in port and prepare for my company. Paulina, go to my chief treasurer and order that he put every bar of gold I have on the royal Climpada. Yes, your majesty, each said in unison, looking at each other in curiosity as they left. The remaining 15 ladies waited around, not sure what to say. Isabel reclined back in her seat. Oh, Kyra, go to Lord Kenzo's estate and tell him to ready my navy to accompany the royal Climpada. I shall, your majesty. She curtsied and left the room. A few minutes later, a gentleman accompanied by 2 knights bobbed into the room. Ah, your majesty! The gentleman with stately black and grey beard, bald head, and silk clothing with gold jewelry greeted the Queen. It is a pleasure to see you again. I'm sorry I can't say the same of you, Abantes, she said, scowling at the man. The ladies laughed. Abantes glared at the women and then turned again to the Queen, a forced smile on his face. I hear you are perhaps taking a journey. May I inquire as to where? How did you come about this information? She asked sharply. A word gets around, Isabel, and since I'm your advisor, I thought to drop by and advise you on that. I don't need your advice. I've ruled this country for over 30 years, and I haven't needed your help yet. Now leave. Ladies, please leave us, he said in a low tone to the ladies in waiting. Each one glanced at the Queen, and then back at her advisor and quietly left. I hate how much power you have, Isabel said in a scowl. And I you, he said, his smile fading from his lips. But since the rules of our island don't permit either one of us to kill the other, let's just talk things out. What about them? She asked, nodding her head towards the knights. So you are planning something more than a journey. Don't even trust my personal guards with such information. Very well then, you two may leave. Yes, Your Grace, both answered and left. Now, why are you planning on leaving the country with all your gold and your navy? Isabel rolled her eyes. Perhaps I've decided to take a journey to Boulogne. Our country is no longer at peace with Boulogne, so why would you want to go there? You couldn't possibly plan on making another peace treaty. I know you'd agree with me leaving the country this time, so why do you question my motives? Abantes glanced at the door. Because I'm aware of the fact that you recently had that Volcano expert, Harrods, thrown into the dungeon. I'm wondering if they're related. Isabel sighed. Yes, they are. She looked up at Abantes. If I tell everyone in the city, everyone will evacuate to the other side of the island. They will like life over there and think that Duke Archibald rules better. So they will revolt like those peasants in Erythrea and make my power-hungry cousin turn against me. I will have no castle to protect me, and I will throw myself in the mercy of my cousin, who in turn will kill me. Abantes let that sink in, and then said, So you'd rather go over there and let the people here die, so that there would be less chance of a revolt? Yes, the panic of the people would also hinder me leaving quickly. I see your point, he paused. I agree. I will go with you with a handful of servants, as if we were going to visit your cousins in northern Irenia. No one will know that we meant for these people to die. No, I will go. You will stay and assure the people that it is so. You can't force me. The soldiers wouldn't follow your bidding in that regard. My mercenary soldiers would, she said slyly. I'll tell the people your scheme about everything then, he said. No, you won't! Isabel drew her dagger, evil permeating her being. Avantes began laughing. Go ahead and abdicate your throne before the volcano hits. You can get me out of the way, only to lose your throne, your country, and any chance to escape the island. Isabel slowly sat back down and put her dagger back in its sheath, as she tried to regain her composure. Fine, you can come with me.